Hello, everyone. This is Jorge from Apprise, and I just quickly want to invite everyone to go into the LIHEAP Performance Management website and log in because this webinar will feature a hands-on activity that requires you to be logged into this website. If you do not have an account for the website, please go to the link that you see on screen. You can also download a handout of the slides and click on the link on the slides that you download to create an account so that you can follow along with the activity. So with that out of the way, I'm gonna hand it over to Holly.
Thanks, Jorge. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Holly Ravenswood. I'm with the Office of Community Services. I used to be a branch chief in the LIHEAP program, but fortunately, I'm also involved with LIHEAP because I manage the Apprise contract. Anyway, I'm going to welcome you all to the LIHEAP Performance Management Main Heating Expenditures Data Reliability Tool training for today. It is a training. Hopefully you have the resources that you need in front of you to go through the materials, but I also want to let you know that it's important to, use these tools when you can. So let's try to see as you go through them. There's a lot of information, but folks at all levels have been using this tool, as you'll see later. And I just want to encourage you to spend time with your data. It's exciting to be able to have these tools at your disposal. So the purpose of this webinar is to inform coordinators about the data reliability tool for main heating expenditures and demonstrate the functionality of the data reliability tool and train attendees on the use. The audience, hopefully y'all are LIHEAP coordinators, LIHEAP program staff, and or LIHEAP information technology support. If those folks on your team are not included in the webinar, it is being recorded as we indicated, but you can also send them a quick message and say, hey, this is awesome data stuff, hop on. Anyway, so we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so a little bit of the overview. The Performance Management Implementation Workgroup. Man, that trips me up every time. You think I'd figure it out by now. Performance Management Implementation Workgroup. Data Reliability Team, Performance Management Data Reliability Team. Members are listed on the slide, and I'll read off their names, but they are the ones who worked with the Apprise team to develop the data reliability tools. These team members are your peers, your colleagues, and we have Lorraine Portis from Mississippi, Casey Lutran from Oklahoma, Kanisha Floyd from Tennessee, Sherry Shepard from Montana, Jenny Sullivan from Montana, and Peter Edelman from the Division of Energy Assistance at Office of Community Services. As I indicated, these folks are the ones who helped develop the tool and are actually doing the webinar training for you today. So what is in the webinar? Well, what we have is we're going to have Kanisha from Tennessee furnish some background on the development of the data reliability tools. Next, Connor Priest from Apprise will furnish PowerPoint slides to show you how to navigate the data reliability tool and how to load different assessments. If you are trying to use the tool later, you might want to come back to these slides if you're having a hard time using the application. From there, we're going to turn to 3 different live demonstrations. Our performance management data reliability team members from Montana, Mississippi, and Oklahoma are going to walk through demonstrations of actually using the tool to examine their data. Finally, we will ask David Carroll from Apprise to tell us what's next in terms of beta testing the main heat tool in terms of developing their data reliability tools. Please remember to download the presentation slides since they may be a useful reference when you start using the tool to check your own data. And before I turn it over to Kanisha, I just want to say these tools do all those back-end calculations that I know I struggle with myself when using Excel and looking at data. So it's already built in. The calculations populate. You'll see that later. So have fun, enjoy. Kanisha, your turn.
Thank you, Holly. As Holly mentioned, my name is Kanisha Floyd, and I'm a LIHEAP coordinator from the state of Tennessee. I'll be providing everyone with some background information to help you not only understand the data reliability tools, but the development that went into creating these tools as well. Grantees are required to collect and report LIHEAP performance measures data each year. Grantees are also expected to use the performance measures data to assess the performance of their program. But as grantees start to use their performance measures data, they often ask, how do I know that my performance data are reliable enough to support making changes in my program design or my policies? Well, that question from grantees was duly noted, and we began working with Melissa Torgerson from Verve to develop a comprehensive assessment framework that includes 4 steps. The first step is defining the data. So making sure that you are clear about the data that need to be collected. Step 2, collecting the data. And that's assessing whether you are collecting enough data to meet the requirements. Step 3, recording and processing data. So that's ensuring that your procedures are designed to maximize data quality. And then step 4, which is checking the data. And that includes a set of checking procedures that furnish feedback on data quality and consistency. Now, for more information on the assessment framework, please see the data reliability webinar from September 19th, 2019, and that link is listed below for your reference. Slides are also available now for download from the GoToWebinar handout section in this webinar. Now, to develop the actual data reliability tool, work group members worked with the prize to develop a set of tools to do the following. They help you prioritize your review and assessment of data reliability, furnish benchmarks that alert you to data reliability issues, show you how to identify the source or sources of your data reliability problem or maybe problems, and then finally help you develop an action plan for improving the reliability of your data. Round 1 of creating the reliability assessment tool was actually created in an Excel spreadsheet format. The Apprise team initially developed a series of spreadsheet tools that were used at the LIHEAP National Training in Washington, D.C. back in 2018, and then again in Denver, Colorado in 2019. But the alpha testing done by the data reliability team found that while the tool might be okay in-person training, it would not be an effective way for grantees to work toward the longer term goal of data reliability. So we took a step back, which led to round 2 of creating the reliability assessment tool, where we came up with a web-based training format. Now that meant the Apprise team went back to the drawing board and worked to develop a web-based system that accesses data from the data warehouse, guides the grantee through the training process, and then saves the grantee action plan directly on the performance management website. Now, the alpha testing that was done by the data reliability team this time found that the web-based tool was a big improvement. And now we feel that it's time for beta testing to be done by grantees. So with that said, are there any questions?
Hi, everyone. This is Jorge from Apprise. Just to let you know, in case you haven't used GoToWebinar before, to ask a question, in your GoToWebinar client, there is a question box, and you can type questions in there, and then I'll receive them and read them to Kenesha or any of the other presenters. If for any reason you can't see the question box, it's likely because your client is minimized. So to expand your client, click on the orange arrow as shown in the slide, and you'll be able to type in questions. Kenesha, we do have one question. It might be for you or for any other of the presenters. The question is, has any data reliability team member used this tool? And if so, what did they learn about their programs?
This is Lorraine from this.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kenesha. We did use the tool, at least I've used the tool, and what I've learned is that we were focusing so hard on our top providers that we were missing looking at everything that we needed to, and right now we need to make sure we're focusing on the right number of households and we're getting enough information from our natural gas and propane providers, and really it just made us aware that we really need to be focusing on our vendors. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorraine. We don't have any other questions as of right now, so I encourage everyone, if any questions come up, type them as you go, and when we hit any of these question breaks, I'll read them out to the presenters. So, Connor?
Yeah, so we can move it on here. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Connor Priest. I'm a policy analyst at Apprise, and I've been working with all of the folks on the data reliability team to help design and implement these tools. And for the next few slides, the next couple minutes here, I'm just going to go over how to access the data reliability tool here for main heating expenditures and how to navigate within the tool once you're in there. So if you can go to the next slide, Jorge. Okay, so one important thing to note is that these data reliability tools that we are designing and implementing are designed for grantees and their support staff. And so they're not going to be made accessible to the general public. So you're going to have to sign into a LIHEAP performance management website account in order to access the tools. But you can do that in one of two ways. You can click directly on the link that you see on the screen here, and that will take you directly to the tool, and then will prompt you to log in. Or you can go to the LIHEAP performance management website and log in, and then navigate via a series of menus from there. So next slide, Jorge. So this is as if you are at the home page for the LIHEAP performance management website, and you have logged in. So you can see in the screenshot here that Jorge was logged in. And because he was logged in, certain menu items on that navigation bar, that blue navigation bar at the top of the screen, pop up. And you can see that one of those options is the Performance Measures tab. And so you would click there to get to the next screen that we need. So Jorge, if you'll click one more time. And that, clicking on that Performance Measures button will bring you to this menu, which is a series of resources available just for folks with a sign-in for the performance management website. And as you can see at the bottom there, the final link that's most recently been added is the Data Reliability Assessment Tool for main heating expenditures. Next slide, Jorge. And once you click that button, you'll be brought to this screen, which is the landing page for the LIHEAP Data Reliability Assessment Tool. This basically gives you an outline of the purpose of the tool. It explains that you're using this information to check your performance measures data for reliability. And then it gives an overview of the layout of the tool. So it talks about the fact that the tool is made up of an overall reliability assessment and 4 in-depth assessments, one for each step of the data reliability framework. And then it emphasizes the fact that you would start with the overall reliability assessment because that assessment is designed to conduct a preliminary screening of your data that you would enter in for the other 4 in-depth assessments. And then that overall reliability assessment will tell you which of those in-depth assessments would be better to prioritize your time or focus on first. Of course, if you have time, it would be great to go in and do all the tools, but that overall reliability assessment will show you where you have issues so that you can prioritize those first. And then lastly, it just lets you know that as you go through the tool, it's going to save your progress as you go. And as you work through, you're going to be prompted to respond to questions if there are potential issues identified. And your responses to those questions will be saved into a data reliability action plan that you can print out or come back and look at on the browser anytime you'd like. Next slide, please. Okay, so from here, you would just push that Start New Assessment button that you guys saw at the bottom there, and that would bring you to this page. And this is kind of the landing point for launching into any one of the 5 assessments. Again, here it's emphasizing that you would start with the overall reliability assessment, and it's also bringing up the fact that there's a before you begin section for each assessment. And so, Jorge, if you go to the next slide. So here it gives you just a quick overview of what the 5 different assessments are. Again, the overall assessment helps you complete a quick screener of all your data from the other 4 assessments and helps you decide which ones you should look at first. Assessment number 1 furnishes energy expenditure benchmarks to assess whether your values are in the expected range, higher or lower than we might expect for the average low-income household in your state. Assessment number 2 checks on whether you are meeting the vendor data collection requirements that are outlined by OCS. Assessment number 3 allows you to compare your success rate for actually collecting household data from your vendors to the average among all states. And assessment number 4 asks you to consider whether you have a comprehensive set of data checking routines in place so that you're kind of checking for these types of issues yourself when the data come in each year. So next slide, please, Jorge. And then for each tool, like I mentioned, there's a before you begin document. And that's because wherever possible, the tool will bring in your data from the LIHEAP data warehouse. However, there are a few things that we look at in these tools that will require you to ask your IT staff or your program staff to pull information that isn't always reported on your performance measures form. Or if you're looking at a year, which right now the most current year would be 2019 data, that information is not in the data warehouse yet, so you would need to pull that information directly from your form. And it's always good to know all of those different data items that you're going to need prior to beginning the assessment. And next slide, Jorge. So you can see again, we're back at this page we were just at, and there's 2 links for each one. There's before you begin and begin assessment. So to see the before you begin documents, you would just start by clicking before you begin. And for this example, we're looking at the overall assessment, but Jorge, if you click one more time, it's important to note that this function is separate for each individual assessment. So click again, Jorge. So here's an overview of what the before you begin document looks like. You click one more time, Jorge. These bullet points here, these triangular bullet points, those are the main data items that you need, as well as a description of what that information is being used for. And if you click one more time, Jorge, and then at the end of every before you begin document, one more click, there's also a summary of the items that you need with it's just a basic description there in the bold, and then the location that you need to go to get that information. So before you begin any of the assessments, it's always best to go in, take a look at this document, send it to your IT staff if you need to, and have all that information ready. And then if we go to the next slide, you'll see that when you click on that before you begin button, for most web browsers, it's going to pull up a PDF version of the before you begin document in a new tab in your browser. This example is with Google Chrome, but it's pretty similar in Firefox and Safari and Microsoft Edge. And so from there, if you click one more time, Jorge, there's usually a button that looks like that you can download it straight to your machine, or you can even directly print it with a button that kind of looks like that. And then to navigate back to beginning the actual assessment, you would just click back up there and move back over to that tab that says LIHEAP Reports. One more click, and that's going to bring you back to this page. And then the next thing you would do is you would click Begin Assessment. All right, one more. Okay, and so once you do that, then it's going to bring up this page, which is your state selection and your year selection. So for state selection, if you click once, Jorge, there'll be a drop-down menu. For most folks who are using the tool, most grantees, the tool is going to automatically determine what state or territory you're looking at. And it's not going to let you select anybody else's information so that you can't look at any of their data. For support staff, which is what we were using to make these screenshots, we'll have the ability to go in and look at every state so that we can help when folks call for support and things like that. And then the next thing that you're going to need to select is your year. And right now there are 3 years available in the tool. There's 2017, 2018, and 2019 data. And then once you fill those in, this next button will illuminate and you'll be able to move on and start the actual tool. So we're going to have demonstrations of what the overall assessment looks like later on. But this is kind of an example of what the assessments look like. And all the assessments follow a color coding for the data entry and data results. So any cells that are blue are going to be cells that are auto-populated from the data warehouse, if possible, but will need to be entered manually if you're looking at fiscal year 2019 data. Any cells that are orange are going to be data that are auto-populated from external data sources. And so you won't have to worry about that. And then yellow information, which isn't shown here, is going to be information that would come from the query that your IT staff pull up. And then when we have the results, green is going to indicate all good, and red is going to indicate that there is a potential data reliability issue. So one click here, Jorge. Once you're within the tool, you're always going to use these previous and next buttons to go back and forth within each screen in the tool. And then you can always click, one more click, Jorge, this back to start button, which will take you back to the landing page. And again, we just want to emphasize that if you click back to start at any point, your information is going to be saved. So it automatically saves and you can go back right to where you were before. One more slide, Jorge. So right here, you can see once we have started an assessment, they will be saved in a table down here on the landing page, and you can click any of those options. You can either view the action plan once you finish the assessment, you can go in and edit the information that you've entered, or if that space is getting cluttered, you can always delete the assessment if you'd like. Okay, so now we're going to have a hands-on activity for you guys, and we're going to take a few minutes here and have all of you try to go to the performance management site. I think you guys should be logged in already, and see if you can go to that performance measures tab and start up an overall assessment and print or download the before you begin document. If it's difficult for you to print, you don't need to worry about that. Just see if you can download it to your website or to your machine. Okay, so we'll give a couple of seconds here, a few minutes for you guys to do that.
Hi, this is Jorge. I just want to jump in real quick and let people know that the link to the data reliability assessment tool can also be found in the chat.
Thanks, Jorge. Jorge, do you think we should go ahead and move over to the question or a few more minutes?
Why don't we give it 30 seconds and then we can move on.
Okay, sounds good. And also for everyone listening in and everyone trying this, if you're having issues getting this or downloading the document, printing the document, finding out where you need to go, if it's not working in your browser, we would really appreciate it if you would send us a comment or reach out to us and let us know who you are and what the issue you're having was, as this is a fairly new tool and we're still trying to make sure that it works for everybody on all different platforms.
Okay, Connor, do you think we're ready to move on?
I think we can go ahead and go to the poll.
Okay.
All right, so now we're asking, and if you guys could please select one, were you able to successfully print or download the document? No, you weren't able to figure it out, or more specifically, were you having an issue with your browser not working or the tool not loading? And Jorge, if you could just give folks a few seconds to answer and then maybe bring up the results.
Yes, we still have responses coming in, so let's give it a few more seconds.
Sounds good. Okay, so it looks here like 60%, so the majority of folks were able to get to what they were looking for, were able to either print it or download it. 15 folks just weren't able to figure it out, and about a quarter of the people had browser issues. So do we have any comments or questions, Jorge?
I see. Connor, we do have one question.
Okay.
The question is, my browser didn't work. Do you know what may be the problem?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And I was discussing this with one of the programmers that we've worked with, Mike Reichert, who's been helping us to build the tool. And he indicated that when he goes in and codes the tool, it's using one of the more recent versions of JavaScript. So one thing that could be an issue is that if you're using an older version of a web browser, so you haven't updated to the most recent version of Chrome, or maybe you're not using the most recent Explorer or the most recent Firefox, then your browser might not be able to work with the tool without doing some additional things. So you'd want to just reach out to us at Apprise, and we'll work with you to help make sure that you can utilize the tool. Another issue is that your security system through your office may not be allowing your machine to fully communicate with the new Java and exchange data back and forth for security purposes. So if you're having, that could be the issue as well. So again, if you're having that issue or an issue with your browser, you could just reach out to us here at Apprise. We'll definitely take a look at that for you and make sure we can get you utilizing the tool.
Thanks, Connor. And we have one raised hand. So Maria Hops has her hand raised up. I'll unmute you and let you ask your question. Again, if anyone else has questions, they can type them in the question box.
Thank you. I actually, my question was answered. Thank you.
Okay. We would like to invite everyone who whose browser didn't work or they couldn't, or the browser couldn't load the tool to let us know on the question box. Give us your contact information, and as Connor said, we will work with you to figure out what was the problem there.
Right. Yep. And it's also really helpful in that comment if you let us know what web browser you're using as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sherry Shepard with the state of Montana, and I'm going to just do an overall review of the overall reliability assessment tool for main heating expenditures. So we're going to go ahead and navigate to the tool. So on the performance measures web page, and I think Connor, you're going to navigate over there.
Yep, I'm just waiting for Jorge to transfer over. That should just take a second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And can you see that all right? I can zoom in a little bit here.
Yep, I can see that. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great. So,
on the reliability assessment tool, like Connor had said earlier, that there are 4 assessments. Could you scroll down just a little bit, Connor? You need to log in. You have to make sure that you're logged in to the performance management website. And okay, and once you're logged in, then up on the top toolbar there, if you click on performance measures, it'll bring up a drop-down menu. And the very last item, data reliability assessment tool, main heating expenditures. So this tool is going to allow us to take a look at the data that the states have submitted to their performance measures reporting tool. And there's, yes. So if you go to start new assessment right here, you'll see that we have the overall reliability assessment, and then we have 4 sub assessments. We're going to focus on just the top one because that's where we want you to start. That's going to give you an overview of where you're sitting with the data that you've submitted. And so we really strongly encourage you to go to the before you begin page. So if you could click on that, Connor. this is going to give you the information that you're going to need, the data you're going to need before you even start the assessment. Now, the majority of the data will be automatically populated based on outside sources or the data you submitted on your performance measures report. But some of the information you are going to have to collect from your IT staff. And so we'll just go through this briefly. The first section, we're looking at how expenditures. Okay, and we're going to compare the expenditures to the information administration data. And so if you're using your 2018 or 2017 data, it's going to automatically populate for you. You won't have to do a thing. You just select your state, 2018 or 2017, and the first screen is going to automatically populate for you. If you are going to want to use your current data, the 2019, you're going to have to get that information from your performance data report form. And that's found in section 4, part B, line 4. So this gives you the instructions. It just gives you everything you're absolutely going to need and the data that needs to be entered into the system. So it's foolproof. It's an easy system to navigate. So then the next section, section number 2, we're looking at vendors. So are the vendors supplying the data that you need? And so this is where you're going to need to work very closely with your IT staff. And so you're going to need to get the number of vendors serving LIHEAP households. So how many vendors do you have serving LIHEAP households? And you're going to need that by fuel type, broken out by fuel type. And then you're also going to need the number of vendors reporting data on LIHEAP households. And you're going to need that also by fuel type. And then the third section here, we're looking at the data that was submitted. You're out there, you're gathering your consumption data by dollars and by units, and you're getting all this information in. And are you getting what you need to be getting? So this section is going to tell you, what are you really getting? Where are you compared to the rest of the states? So if you're using the 2017 and 2018 data, that's going to be automatic for you, so you won't have to do a thing. If you're going to use your 2019 data, you will have to get that from your performance measures form, section 5, part A, and enter that information in on the screen. You will have to work with your IT staff to get the number of households you receive the main heating fuel data from. So that will need to come from your IT staff. And then section 4, do you have some data checks in place and procedures in place to make sure that the data you're receiving and entering in and using to make management decisions is reliable? So I have my IT staff on standby. So Jenny, this is Sherry, and I'd like to fill out this overall assessment for the main heating expenditures. And there's some data that I need to get from you so that I can complete this assessment. Is there any way that I could get the number of vendors serving LIHEAP households in the last heating season, along with the number of vendors reporting data on LIHEAP households by fuel type? Can we get that information?
Yes, one of those items is already available in a report in the system, and the other one we track as we're doing data gathering for performance measures each year. So I can get you both of those.
Oh, great, thank you. And one other little item that I'm going to need from you is we need to know the number of households where we did receive the main heating fuel data. Do we have that information?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Well, since we have all the information we need, we can go ahead and navigate on over to our overall assessment. Back to the start here, where it says overall reliability assessment. And Connor, if you could go ahead and begin the assessment for us. So you just pick your state, and this shows all the states on the screen, but you're only going to be able to see your data. So just know that this information won't be used against you. It's private. you use it to make management decisions for your state. So if it shows issues all over the place, don't worry about it. It's just for you. You can improve. There's always ways to make improvements, but it's just for you, and you won't be held accountable for the information that you find, or the issues that you find in the tool. So if you would go ahead, Connor, and select 2017, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 2017 data, because that'll automatically be populated for us. We won't have to enter a lot of that information. And hit next, please. All right, so there we are. That's how easy it is. So the first column is the main heating fuel. The second column is blue, and the blue says that was automatically populated by the LIHEAP data warehouse. And so what this is showing us is this is what Montana reported in 2017 as expenditures, average expenditures for those fuel types. And then the next column is the average expenditures from SEDS data. And so if you want to go ahead and hit next, Connor. So green is good, red is bad. So what this is showing us is Montana looks pretty good as far as the expenditures we reported for electric, natural gas, and fuel oil. Propane is a little out there. I mean, we're only reporting that we're using 64% of expenditures compared to the SEDS data. So David, could you go ahead and explain to us where we get that number from, the outside source, the SEDS data?
Sure. What we've looked at the data, the values for a number of different states, and it's definitely true that propane is the one that's most often likely to vary from the EIA's estimate. EIA collects information on propane costs, and we use those data to estimate. We process those data and estimate for your state what the expected low income expenditures are going to be. But one thing that we know about propane is that it's very subject to local conditions, to the way that the market works in your particular state and the way the market works for low-income households. So if you see a significant difference between the average expenditures you get from your propane vendors and the average we're reporting based on the derivation we do from the SEDS data, you shouldn't get, that shouldn't be a big alarm to you. But it still does suggest that you should take a look. You should contact. So, for example, in this case, they're estimating $800 per year, and the estimate we came up with was $2,200 per year. You should contact a handful of propane dealers and make sure that they're not just giving you the winter propane usage, because you remember propane is like natural gas. It's used all year round for purposes like water heating and cooking and those sorts of things. So make sure, so if you got this result, you should try contacting your propane dealers, make sure that they're giving you the right information. But it would not be surprising if the estimate that we get from SEDS is different from what you have. Does that make sense to you, Sherry?
Yeah, that makes good sense, David. Thank you. And it also gets me thinking about, okay, why? Where did that 800 come from? So it's like, I want to go back and look at some consumption. I want to go back and just research that a little bit further. So it's just, it just points out what Montana needs to take a look at. So I just want to mention that this is assessment 1. It says that on the top of the screen. This is assessment 1. And in assessment 1, we're looking at expenditures. So that's what this is. And later on in the webinar, Casey's going to go through assessment 1 in a little more detail. And so you'll get a little better feel of how you can drill down and get some more information on this section. So go ahead and hit next, Connor. Thank you. Okay, here we are. We're on assessment 2. And assessment 2 is working with vendors, and it's highlighted in yellow. And yellow means that this is the information you need to provide from your own records. And I contacted my IT person, Jenny, and she has that information for us. So Jenny, could you go ahead and provide that information to Connor?
Sure will. Hey, Connor. So for electric there, it's 29. For natural gas, we have 10. Fuel oil is 31. And propane is 87. Not sure if you heard me. Propane is 87. Number of vendors whom data was received for electric, it's 17. Five for natural gas. 17 for fuel oil. And 48 for propane.
Okay, so the information that Jenny was able to supply for us, the first column is, those are the number of vendors, actual approved fuel vendors that we have by fuel type for the state of Montana. And we received data from 17 electric, 5 natural gas, and 17 fuel oil, and 48 propane vendors. And so this just shows us that we have no issues. We're gathering enough information from our vendors that we need to be. So we have no issues here. We are with acceptable range on all of these. So if you want to go ahead and go to the next screen. Okay, so on assessment 3, we're looking at the data submitted. So our total number of households were automatically populated by our LIHEAP performance data form. And so blue means it's already been done for you. Now, if you were using the 2019 data, you would have to enter that information. And then the number of households whose main heating data was received. We got that from our IT person, Jenny, again. So Jenny, you want to go ahead and give that to Connor?
Yes, for electric, 3,750. For natural gas, 6,036. Fuel oil, 192. And propane, 961. Thanks, Connor.
Okay, so so we have no issues here. Green is good. There are no issues here. I just want to point out that the number of households whose main heating data was received, you have to get that from your IT person. You cannot get that from the performance measures data form. The numbers reported on the performance data form include electric. So this is something you're going to have to get from your IT person. David, do you want to go ahead and explain how we came up with the percentages on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable for the percentage of households here?
Okay, it's not what's acceptable and not acceptable. It's where we would recommend that you take a closer look. What we did is we did an analysis we did an analysis of all the states who've submitted performance measures data, and we looked at the median value for each of the fuels in terms of the percent of households for whom they got data. And for electric and gas, it was in the range of 50%. And for fuel oil and propane, the median value was in the range of 10%, meaning half of the states got more than 10%. But what we know is that I'd say about a quarter of the states got more than 40%. So what the data reliability team decided was, let's use 20% as a good target for people, because that means you're collecting data from enough different vendors that if you have price differences in different parts of the state and you have some different experiences, you'll be getting enough data for households that you're going to have you're going to have some good information. Those of you who just started doing this 3 years ago, we completely understand that it's, you started with getting your electric and gas data, and now you're working on your fuel oil data and your propane. And it's going to take a while to get enough of those vendors to respond that you get good quality information. But what we'd like to recommend is that you try to get at least 20% data for at least 20% of the households.
Thank you, David. Okay, if you want to go ahead and go to the next screen, Connor. There's no actions needed on this screen. So assessment 4. Assessment 4 is where you ask yourself some questions. So Jenny, do we have checks in place to examine whether agencies are collecting heating vendor information for every client?
Yeah.
Do we have checks in place to review the data submitted by vendors and identify potential errors?
Yeah.
Right. Do we have procedures in place for reviewing and resolving the findings from our reliability checks?
Yeah.
Okay. And do we have procedures in place for assessing the effectiveness of our checks and making changes when necessary?
No.
Okay. So we need to work on that. That's one area we need to work on. It's just good to work with your IT staff and other management staff to kind of talk about your reliability checks, the checks that you have with your system. So if you want to go ahead and go next, Connor. Okay, so what it's saying is we need to conduct a full run through of assessment 4 to learn about potential issues and ways that we can address it. And you want to go to the next screen, Connor? Okay, so this brings up a summary or an action plan of the overall assessment. And it looks like Montana needs to take a deeper dive into assessment 1 and assessment 4. I'm not going to go into that now. Casey will be reviewing assessment 1. But up at the top of the screen, it just shows you what assessments that you should take another look at. Yeah, and that's all I have for now. It's just a very useful tool. I found that it's a very useful tool, and it's user friendly, and you can't go wrong just going in and putting in some numbers, and it's not going to hurt anything, and nobody's going to see the information that you enter in there. It's for your own state's use to improve your program. So are there any questions on the overall assessment tool for main heating data?
Hi, everyone. Just a reminder, you can type your questions into the question box in your GoToWebinar client. Connor's going to bring up the slide shortly. So we have a question that came in. So Sherry or Jenny, the question is, can anyone other than the person who is using the tool look at the responses that we enter in it?
No, you can only look at your own state's information. That's why it's confidential, and you don't have to worry about what you put in there. So you can be as honest as you want or as dishonest as you want with your responses in the tool.
I guess this might be a question for Jenny. How long did it take to generate the statistics that Sherry needed to use the tool?
A little under an hour.
Okay. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. So let's move on now to Lorraine's presentation. But again, encouraging everyone, if you have questions, type them in as we go, and I'll read them when we get back to the next question break. Thank you. And Lorraine, if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon. I'm Lorraine Portis from the state of Mississippi. And like Sherry and Jenny, I also will be going through the overall reliability assessment. And the difference is I will be using the current year, 2019, which is not auto-populated in the data warehouse. So I will be providing that information to Connor, and he will be entering it. Sherry and Jenny have already gone over the Before You Begin document. So we're just going to dive right into the Begin assessment. If you would click that for me, Connor. Thank you. And we will choose our state, Mississippi, and as they've already indicated, you will only be able to see your state. Year 2019. Next. Thank you. And it comes up with our first assessment 1, defining these data requirements. And again, the light blue would have been auto-populated. However, this is the current year 2019, so I am going to have to provide that information for Connor. And you could just see here, just remember that it's all color coordinated. And the orange here is information that was derived from said data. And then we're going to get to the yellow screen, which we need our IT involvement. So let us start with the input. Electric, 1873. Natural gas, 1873. Natural gas is 628. We do not have fuel oil, but you have to enter a value there, so 0. And propane is 442. Okay, next, and we'll see what happens. And you can see here that we're really spot on for our electric and natural gas, and there are no issues. And the only thing I would look at would be, we see at propane, we're a little at the lower end, and with our other 2 fuel types, they're at a higher end. But I'm not as concerned right now, because as we delve in closer into our data, you'll see why I can't necessarily rely on the 442. Not that it's okay, but before I dig deeper, let's just click on next, Connor. Okay, again, you can see here now we have the yellow, which means that we needed to get information from our MIS or IT departments, and we did that. So let us just now go into look at this, and it's important that we really do look at that before you begin, so that you can have all of this information available at your fingertips. So electric, we pay benefits to 57 electric providers. 47 gas vendors, natural gas, of course, that's 0, and 56 propane. Now, what did we get back?
Sorry, Lorraine, what was that last number?
56.
56. Thank you.
Okay. And now, what did we get back? Well, we sent 9 for electric, but we got back 6. For natural gas, we got back 4. We requested 5. Fuel oil is just 0. And propane, 2. And we requested 9. So I wonder if there are issues. Let's see. Can you click next, Connor? And basically, there are issues because OCS basically requires that we receive information on for our top 5 natural gas, and we only have 4. And the one thing I will say about our natural gas, our top 2 vendors provide 90% of our population. So, but it's still not the 5. And propane, we're required 10, and we're showing here 2. So that's why issues are found. So that's something that we're going to have to do a full run through of assessment too. Okay, thank you, Connor. Can you click next, please? Okay, so now we proceed on to assessment 3 that involves recording and processing the data. And we'll look here again, it's not populated the light blue because this is 2019 data. If it was 2018, it would already be there. So we're going to get this information that's on our current performance data report. Number of household assistants for electric, Hunter, that is 23,835. For natural gas, that is 8421. Well, you know, for fuel oil is 0. And for propane, 8341. Okay, so now again, remember it's color coordinated. So here the yellow is that we needed to get this information for our MIS. And just a caution again here is that we need to have only 12 consecutive months of the main heating and not just the base load electric. So you're definitely going to need that from your IT staff. So this was one that gave me a little headache, but now that we know that we need it, we've asked for it, so I'm going to give you that information, Connor. For electric, that's 15,201. Natural gas is 4481. And propane, 992. No, oh, I'm sorry, fuel oil is 0, Connor. Okay. And if you would click here. And again, we have something here that we need to look at, and it's in propane. As it's stated, it's 50% is what you're looking at for you, like your natural gas and electric household, and we're in the green there, all systems go, but I would hesitate with natural gas being very toward the lower end of that. So we would definitely need to dive deeper into that. And with our fuel oil requirement of 20%, and we're at 12%. And then let me just be honest, the state of Mississippi, we understand that we really got to dig deeper and work to try to improve our propane numbers. Okay, Connor, we can proceed. Now we're here at assessment 4, just on our data checking routine. So I'm going to be honest on this call. So we're going to read through this, and I'm going to answer accordingly. Do you have checks in place to examine whether agencies are collecting heating vendor information for every client? Our answer is yes, because we have a centralized system and it's a required field that has to be completed. 2, do you have checks in place to review the data submitted by vendors and identify potential errors? And that's yes, we do have checks in place. And of course, a lot of these have areas that they can be improved. Now, 3, do you have procedures in place for reviewing and resolving and finding those for your reliability checks? The answer there is no. We have a process, we don't have procedures, and we are operating somewhere in the middle. There are things that we're doing, but we definitely need to work on that. 4, do you have procedures in place for assessing the effectiveness of your checks and making changes when necessary? And the answer there is no. We have a process, we need some procedures. So no, Connor. And so before we just move on, you can click next. We know we need to do another run through of assessment 4. And like I said, we just need to focus on this. And also, it's kind of hard seeing what you don't have, but this is the whole part of what, like, I just reiterate what Sherry said. This is your data. You're going to be able to see it, and you can use this to really start planning for your next year's report on how you can improve your process. It's your data. OCS is not looking at it. You're going to sign in. If you look at my screen, I got like 5 or 6 different overall assessments that I'm just going through to get comfortable with information. So we'll just click next here. And based on what we've input, it's basically telling me I got 3 assessments I need to dive deeper into, 2, 3, and 4. And that's what we plan to do. So that's all from my portion. Are there any questions? And you can see here, natural gas, propane, assessment 4. Any questions?
This is David. I just would like to highlight. So again, we listed these as assessment 1, 2, 3, and 4, but you see from Lorraine's work that doing that overall reliability assessment, what she learned is she doesn't really need to dig into her average expenditures as much as she needs to do the other assessments. So she should be focusing on 2, 3, and 4 and not number 1. And as she said, once she has more data from her propane vendors, then she'll want to take a look at assessment 1 and make sure that she's still in the right range. Right, Lorraine?
Right, David.
The other thing I want to highlight for you is that right now, so you all furnished your 2019 data. They are not yet in the system, but they will actually be in there shortly. The reason for the being able to enter new data is when you do your 2020 when you start working on your 2020 performance measures report, you might think about actually doing this data quality assessment before you send it to OC, put it into OLDC and send it to a prize. And so that's where this would be most useful. We are going to those of you who 2 weeks from now want to go in and look at your 2019 data, that will be auto-populated because we will load it into the system.
Thanks, David and Lorraine. We have one question that came in for Lorraine. So the question is, could you let us know about how much time it took for you to get the statistics that you needed to enter in the tool?
I will say it took maybe a day, and that's just really discussing what the requirements were with our MIS team. Sherry and Jenny are both on the work group, so they have a very clear understanding because they're working it together and on the work group. But for us, it was just making sure that our developer and our system analyst, all of us were talking the same language. But it took about a day to get that information.
Thanks, Lorraine. Again, I want to encourage everyone to type in your questions if you have any. But right now, I don't see any questions coming in. So why don't we move on to Casey's part of the presentation?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Casey Leatrins. I am the LIHEAP Program Field Representative at Oklahoma Department of Human Services. Unlike the other two demonstrations we just had from Lorraine, Sherry, and Jenny, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna go what can you do? One of the in-depth assessment. In particular, we're gonna look at Oklahoma data from federal fiscal year 2018. Since we have not done a full run through the assessment number one, I'm gonna go and quickly take you through the before you begin in document. Connor, would you please clicking on the begin before you begin for assessment number one? As you can see from the bullet point, there are two main data items required for the assessment number one. First, we will need the main hidden expenditure estimates provided by ASPRI using the EIA system energy state energy data system. This value will be automatically loaded into the tool. Second, we need to calculate the average expenditure for the LIHEAP assisted household in Oklahoma for the main heating field. If the data is available in the data warehouse, it will auto-populate. If the data is not available in the warehouse, I will need to collect it from my performance measure data form. And since we are assessing 2018 data, this information should be already auto-populated. Connor, would you please navigate it back to the assessment selection screen and click begin assessment under assessment one? And can you pull up the Oklahoma data for 2018, please? And click next. As you can see, the average expenditure for Oklahoma is correctly auto-populated from the data warehouse into the blue column. Connor, go ahead and click next. Additionally, the estimate furnished by ASPRI is based on the state energy data system data have correctly auto-populated in the orange column. One thing to note, here is the tool that's showing no SEDS data for the fuel oil household. As a reminder, this is happening because fuel oil household account is less than 1% of the low-income household in our state. So the tool is not going to flag potential issue with our oil for the fuel oil data. Connor, can you click on next? The assessment is decided flat if the average expenditure I report is lesser than 50% or greater than 150% of the expenditure estimate produced by the set data. Here you can see that Oklahoma does not have any automatic flag for any fuel type issue. However, that 57% for the electric heat household is a little bit concern to me. Over the next few screen, the tool gonna break down my result for each fuel type. When I get the result for electric heat household, I will also think that I need to check the data liability issue anyway. Connor, could you click on next, please. As you can see, below the table, there is a button that will allow me to continue to explore the follow-up question for electric, heat, household, and it automatically issue any flag. Since my 57% is very close to the 50% cutoff, I'm gonna go ahead and have Connor click that button. Now, we have now that we have clicked the button, there are a series of questions that pop up. Connor, I'm gonna read through it. It's question and then providing my answer. Please mark the appropriation bubble for me. So question number 1, do your electric vendor indicate that they are including energy usage change, for example, variable cost in the expenditures amount they are report to you? The answer is yes. Number 2, do your electric vendor indicate they are including energy delivery fixed charges and taxes? For example, transmission regular monthly service charge and the expenditure amount they reported to you? The answer is yes. Question number 3, do your electric vendor indicate they are including the total expenditure amount for a complete 12-month period, not only for cooling or season heating season, they actually have to include in the 12 month? The answer is yes. Question number 4, do your electric vendor confirm that they are indicating if the account expenditure data present less than 12 months, such as due to the account closing, moving the clients with the vendor for deliverable fuel? The answer is no. And as you can see there, it requires a follow-up for me on that. So seeing the expenditure data less than 12 months, for that reason, I need to come up with a response. So Connor, please enter this response in the box for me. I will contact my electric vendor and let them know that they need to be indicating whether or not a household expenditure data do not present a full 12-month period due to any of other causes indicate above. And question number 5, your electric vendor report expenditure amount after low income discount have been applied? The answer is yes. Okay, kind of click next, please. So it looked like I responded to just one of the 5 common issues. It's asked in the follow-up question. So I'm gonna have to save this, respond, and put it back in action plan for assessment number 1. We will come back and look at it again. Connor, can you click on next, please? So on natural gas, there is no automatic issue flag for Oklahoma, and I'm happy with the 112%. Connor, you can click on next, please. Fuel oil again, fuel oil household is less than 1% for low-income household in Oklahoma. So the tool is not checking the data for error. You can see there is a special message explained to the below the table. Connor, you can go ahead and click next. Propane, like natural gas, there is no automatic flag for propane household. I'm happy with the value of, I'm sitting at 112%. Remember the private from the set data. Connor, go ahead and click next. So finally now we have finished going through the result. And the answer in the follow-up question, we are proud to the final screen called the Data Liability Action Plan. As you can see, the action plan displays the issue that I identified as I worked through the assessment, as well as the custom action item that I entered for myself. The issue I identified come from the follow-up question for the electric heat household. And the response that I told Connor and to appear to the explanation of the issue. Now, I have an option that I can bring this issue directly, download them at CSV, or return and look at them later here on the tool whenever I want. Since the tool is automatically saved, it's easy for me just to come back and look at the result right here on the browser. Connor, would you click back to the start and demonstrated how you can go down on your save assessment and click view sprint action plan to come back and review the result at any time. That is for my demonstration. Anyone have any question for me or any panelists so far?
Hi, again, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the questions box. So it doesn't seem like we have any questions for Casey yet.
I'm gonna hand it back to you, Jorge.
Yeah, so now we'll move on to David's slide so that he can conclude our presentation.
I want to thank you all very much for attending our session today. Here are the next steps that we will be taking with respect to these data reliability tools. Next slide, please, Jorge. So these tools are very challenging to develop. We have alpha tested, which means that we've had the team members go through and make sure that the basic functionality is correct. We would like to do beta testing, and so we'll be working with the other PMIWG grantees. There are 15 members of the work group, and 5 of them are on the data reliability team, and we'll be asking the other 10 to work with us on it. But we are also interested in any other grantees that would like to do some beta testing with us. And the way you would do that is just reach out to us and say you are interested in working through this with us. We'll assign somebody to walk through that with you, and you can be part of the development team. Some of the things we're concerned about, as you saw, we're a little bit concerned about browsers and security systems. We want to make sure the tool works effectively with all types of browsers and systems. And the more information Mark gets, Mark Reichard, our programmer gets, the better he's going to be able to make this make the tools flexible enough to work in a variety of environments. We're going to want to make language updates. You know, we've done, I think, 3 rounds now of exactly what the descriptions are and how they tell you what's happening and what you should be concerned about. But we'll be wanting to keep working to clarify the language associated with each part of the tool. And then we'll also want to keep working on functionality. We'll want to work to ensure that the tool is functioning properly and that it actually guides the grantee to the right conclusions. And the right conclusions are the ones that help to identify where you might have data reliability issues and give you some ideas about how to resolve those. Next slide. It's also true that the team wants to work on the other modules. If you go back to the webinar we did last September, we highlighted that there are 5 data elements that are important. We've been working on the main heat data reliability tool. We're going to work with the team over the next few months to develop modules for the other important data elements, including baseload electric. That's the electric expenditures for households who are not electric heaters. Income. We want to make sure that we're getting income recorded properly. Energy assistance grants, we want to ensure that the energy assistance reported on the data form matches the expected information from your system. And then finally, the issue of coding the main heating fuel. We're going to work on challenges associated with defining main heating fuel for all clients. So those are the other, so in the end, we're hoping to have data reliability tools for 5 different data elements. And we are hoping that it gives you the best information and is the easiest possible to use going forward. Next slide. So that is the end of my presentation, and that's the end of the overall presentation. Jorge, why don't we see if there are any final questions? So we'll just wait a second if anybody wants to enter questions. Are you seeing anything, Jorge?
No, no questions coming in.
Okay, why don't we go to the last slide? And okay. So here's a good question for you. Based on what you've seen, do you plan to use the main heating expenditures data reliability tool to assess your own data? Absolutely. And the potential answers are absolutely, probably not, and no, I don't need it. So if you could take a minute and enter the information. And I will, while you're entering that information, I'll give you some additional information. As I said, by the end of this month, we will be loading the 2019 data in there. So if you want to do a test on your 2019 data, you can enter it from your data form now, or once the data are entered, it will auto-populate into the tool. That's number 1. Number 2, we will be meeting with the work group. We'll be having, we have had on-site meetings, but in September we will be having a virtual meeting with the team, and they'll be working on these tools in more depth. And so you should see some additional information coming out in October, November, December. We should be publishing additional tools and additional information. Jorge, do we have responses? Yes. Okay, so people are very. So I like how brave people are who say no, I don't need it. We said absolutely. Half the people are saying absolutely, I'll use it. The other half of the people are saying probably I'll use it, and we appreciate that, and we hope that it is useful. And we absolutely want your feedback on whether this is working for you and whether it's giving you good information. Next slide, Jorge. And so if we did not respond to a question that you have during the webinar, we'll follow up via email. If you have additional questions, you can email Connor or me or Mark, or you can click on the list and contact someone from OCS. The other thing I want to say is throughout this process, please, if you start working with the tool and it doesn't work for you, please don't just toss it aside. Let us know. Let us know what worked. Let us know what didn't work. Let us know why you found it to be not useful, because that's what the team wants. These are, this tool is developed. We did the technology, but the concept, the idea for having data reliability was developed by the project, by your fellow grantees. The idea for how to make it useful and functional was developed by your fellow grantees, and we will be very happy to, if you find that it doesn't work for you, we'll be very happy to listen to how you think it should be improved, and we will work to improve it. With that, I want to thank you all for attending the webinar, and we will look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you very much.